keep thinking about this TikTok video I saw where someone said, "I love music, but I feel like music doesn't love me back." And it's not just the one video, I've seen a few variations of this, and I have absolutely been there too. It is a cruel, uncaring world for the independent artist. If you've seen any of the videos we've posted recently, you may have picked up that our band is recording an album right now. And as we prepare to do that, this quote keeps ringing in my head like an intrusive thought. It's been making me think about why we make music. I recently heard this great quote from a YouTuber called Venus Theory who said, "Music is what feelings sound like." That resonated with me because when I write, I'm usually trying to capture an emotion that I feel but don't fully understand yet. When you add lyrics to the mix, this sort of bridge between the head and the heart is formed that allows me at least to be deeply, deeply moved by what I hear. And when that's done well, all of a sudden an emotion that could be felt but not seen has this sort of physical embodiment in the form of a song. For those of us who make music, I think there's a very natural inclination to want to share it with other people and see if it makes them feel the same thing it makes us feel. When we do that, we get this unique view into the way that another person experiences emotion. I truly believe that when we experience art with another person and respond to it and react together, it is inevitable that empathy forms. For all the joy and beauty that music has added to my life, I feel like I owe music a debt I could not repay in 100 lifetimes. I think this feeling that music doesn't return our love and devotion is basically a symptom of social comparison bias stemming from the fact that for many of the musicians whose works we've been inspired by, success in music has been accompanied by fame, wealth, and adoration. And so it can become difficult for us to separate those things from what we view as success in music. I think it's quite plausible that if you learned guitar from a guy down the road who sits on his porch and drinks whiskey, you might associate music with public drunkenness. But if you picked up a guitar after hearing Revolver and developed your style by learning Beatles tunes, you might think picking up a guitar is the first step to being knighted by the Queen. I think this leads to a scenario where we feel like music doesn't love us back, but it might be more accurate to say that we love music and aren't loved back by money, fame, or capitalism. And social comparison bias aside, I feel like it's also important to note here that in the US, we have a society-wide problem with musicians not being adequately paid for their labor. No type of artist should be expected to work for free just because they enjoy what they do, but I am mostly talking here to musicians who feel like their music is not successful because they haven't reached as many people as they thought they would reach with their music. All of this makes me wonder if the issue that people are describing isn't actually anything to do with quality of music or experience of playing and writing music. It's more that their music hasn't been successful as a commodity. Unfortunately, I think that most of the metrics that we use to describe the success of art are really better suited to describe commodities. For music, that would be streams or sales, the original commodity metric, fans or followers, which is basically just brand awareness, and show or tour size, which is sort of a combination of both of those two. And none of those are about the subjective quality of how art makes you feel. And you're probably thinking right now about music reviews as a qualitative measure, but even that can't be separated from fan base because music critics write for clicks, so they have no incentive to write about an artist who hasn't already grown a fan base, thus completing our vicious cycle of commodity metrics. There are plenty of examples of great music that has worked really well as a commodity, but I think there are also just as many examples of great music that has not had success as a commodity, and also a ton of examples of music that I don't really care for that has been incredibly successful as a commodity. And I've been noticing lately that the discourse I've seen online about sharing music is dominated with discussions that aren't about how to get joy from the experience of sharing music or how to share music in a way that elevates the experience a listener has hearing your song. It's just about how to make your song the most successful commodity it can be. Maybe it makes sense to answer that feeling that we love music, but we're not loved back by it, with a question: am I okay with making music that is good, but not successful as a commodity? And it's totally okay for the answer to be no to that question, because professional musicians need to make a living. For a lot of people, it's just not an option for that music not to be a successful commodity. But if the answer is yes, I think a whole world of new ways to measure success in music is open to you. I'm planning to make some videos in the future about ways that I have measured success for my band. But for now, I mostly just want to hear from you guys. What is the rubric that you're using to measure success outside of the typical commercial success that we hear all the time? And even if you are a professional musician who relies on the success of your music to make rent, I think that having metrics and goals that are fully within your control to accomplish would be an extremely healthy practice. I'm sure a ton of y'all are already doing this, and I just want to know what those things are. So drop us a comment, send us a message or an email, and until next time, bye.